Hello and welcome to Stamp with Julie Baum. I'm Julie, and today I'm going to show you how to make this cute Halloween treat box. Now, this is one of the projects that we made at Stamp Club in September of 2023, and there's lots of fun elements to learn in looking at how to make this box. So let's get started. The first thing I want to point out is the stamp set, which is called Tricks and Treats, has some really wonderful coordinating dies. So you can see I have some of the dies here, including the haunted house, which we did use on a card for another project this month. Also the cute tags, the ghost. This little zigzag element is something that you can use as an extra piece for the box itself. And then there's some other dies that we'll be using during the project right now. So one of the best dies in that set, I think, is this one, which actually cuts out the box for you, or bag. I'm not sure if you would call this a box or a bag. I'm going to call it a box because I'm putting a bag inside of it. So what you'll need to use this to cut out your box are 2 pieces of cardstock. 2 pieces make 1 box, so you'll need 2 pieces, and they need to be at least 5 inches by 5.5 inches. All right, a 6-inch piece is a little bit overkill. You end up with quite a big scrap left over. So if you start with 5 by 5.5, and then after you cut them out, you have very little waste. This is the piece that you'll end up with. All right, so this is going to go on your piece of cardstock. You're going to run it through your Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine so that you end up with this, and then you're going to do that twice. So here are my 2 identical pieces. All right, so that alone makes for a wonderful reason to consider purchasing these dies. That little zigzag would be used in conjunction with this in case you wanted a zigzag top on your box. All right, as far as putting the box together, that goes together quite quickly as well. And so just with my bone folder, I'm going to go ahead and fold on all the score lines. On both pieces. So there's that one and this one. Then to put the box together, because I really want it to stay together and not to come apart, I'm going to reach for my tear and tape. And the tear and tape is going to get placed along this skinny tab right here. So I'm going to put a piece the entire length of that tab. And I'm going to do that on both box pieces. All right, once we have this in place, we can begin to assemble the box. And one thing that I'll point out, this is the top, the folded flaps are going to be at the bottom. At this stage, if you're more comfortable, this would be a good time to go ahead and glue your designer series paper on. One piece is going to go on the front and one piece is going to go on the back. But if you don't put it on at this point, there is another good time to do that. So I'm going to wait and I'll show you the other way, but you certainly could put it on at this point. The designer series paper that I'm using is called Them Bones. It's part of a 12 by 12 pack of Halloween themed paper in the current holiday or mini catalog. All right, so to put your box together, you're going to remove the backing of one of the pieces, these strips of tear and tape. I'm just going to line up my 2 box pieces as straight and carefully as I can right here on the edge of the flap, like so. And then I love how easy this is. Once I peel this off, I'm able to just fold that flap and it's exactly where it needs to go. So you don't have any funny, trying to hold it so that it sticks and isn't sticking at the wrong time. No, that's completely made easier by the size and design of this box. So now I've removed that backing and I can fold that over and my box is finished. At this point, this would be your second opportunity to put your designer series paper on while the box is nice and flat. It makes it a little bit easier. So if you didn't already do it in the first chance, now would be a good time to do that before we finish putting the box together. And there's going to be a little bit of a border all the way around my Starry Sky colored paper. And all of the dimensions for the whole project can be found on my website, stampwithjuliebaum.com, and I will put a link in the description box below this video. You can just click right over there and you can find all of the dimensions for all the parts and pieces to make this project. All right, so once we've got our decorative paper on here, then we can go ahead and finish putting the box together. So I think what is easiest is to choose one of the two larger flaps and put some tear and tape on it. So I'm going to fold this like that. I'm going to put tear and tape here. And I don't want the bottom dropping out once I have my treats tucked in here. So I'm actually going to use 2 strips just for some extra holding power. So I suppose depending on what treats you're going to put in there and how heavy it is, you might be fine with just 1, but I'm going to go ahead and put 2. Like that. Okay, and then if you've ever put together a 3D object or a box, something like this, and you get to this point, it's a little hard to seal this nice and tight because you don't want to squish it down. So once you kind of have it in place, then just put it the direction that it goes and use something else. Either take your pick tool or a bone folder, something to reach down to the bottom of that and press it so that your tear and tape is really sticking the way it should. Okay, so you can use that. You could use this. Again, you just want to press it down so that that is nice and stuck and it's not going to pop open. Okay, for the decorating of our little project, we're going to do a couple things. We're going to do some stamping. So one thing I need on here are the words trick or treat. I'm just going to use my Memento Tuxedo Black ink pad. And I'm going to put the words in this direction because I need room for the die that I'm going to use, because I'm going to die cut this out. And then I want to show you 2 different ways to do the monster. We're going to use the Frankenstein's monster. So one way is to stamp a green face on here. I'm going to use Parakeet Party. And then add the black details. Okay, so we're going to do that. And it's a toss-up really on if you think it's easier to do the green part first and then add the black, or if you want to do the black part first. Now I've made a couple of these boxes already, and for me, on this particular image, it's easier to do the black first. So that's the way I'm going to do it, but there's no rules. You can do whichever order you think is better for you. All right, and I'm going to get a Stampin' Pierce mat. And I'm going to do the stamping in this direction because I'm also going to use a die to cut this image out. All right, so here is our monster with the black first and then the green. And all I want to do when I do the green is make sure that no green is up higher than his hair. So I'm just going to make sure that it's below the top of this black edge. I think that's why for me it's easier to do that, because I can line up the green and then drop it down a smidge so it's in the right spot. All right, so there we have our face. Now, let me mention, if you have Parakeet Party cardstock, you can also get away with stamping the black right onto the cardstock. So that would look like this. And then simply using the die to cut that out, and you end up with this image. So there's really two different ways. You can use the colored cardstock and just stamp in black, or in this instance, we did the white cardstock and stamped in the green and the black. All right, so that gives you a couple of options. All right, I'm going to step over to the Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine and cut these out. And then I'll bring them back into the camera view so that you can see the next step. Okay, we've got our images that have now been cut out. So here's our monster, and this cute, it's not really a tombstone shape, but it kind of gives you the feeling of that. That die, I really like that die a lot. All right, we've got those pieces. Now, a couple other things that need to be die cut that I went ahead and did ahead of time is this adorable candy corn die. So it actually is in 3 parts. And to cut out the candy corn, I did this full-size piece on pumpkin pie. So that gave me the shape. Then I used this die with some Daffodil Delight. That is going to give us this part. And then this die with some white cardstock gives us that part. Look how cute that is. So let's use some liquid glue and put those pieces together. I think a card with just the words and a bunch of candy corn all over the front would be a really cute card. I have not made that card yet, but it's in my mind. And those dies are also part of that same set of dies that coordinates with Tricks and Treats. Okay, so there are our elements that we need to continue and put our box together. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is attach the words, and they're just going to be flat. So I'll use my liquid glue. You could use Stampin' Seal or tear and tape to do this part. And I want it way up at the top, way over here to the edge, but not sticking off. So I've got right at the edge. Just going to press that down. And then the candy corn. And it's just going to fit nicely right here. Then for our Frankenstein monster, I'm going to grab some black mini dimensionals and put a couple of those on the back. I think 4 is going to be plenty. You could make a case for 6, but I think this is going to be just fine. All right, remove the backings off those mini black dimensionals, and now this can go right on here. It just overlaps a teeny bit, but you can still completely see the words. I think that's really cute. And I just keep flipping it this way so I can put my hand on the inside and press down. Make sure that all those elements are stuck down well, like so. Okay, now to finish this, I reached for some probably retired glitter dots that happen to be in this bright green. Technically, this might have been Granny Apple Green, but they are definitely close enough to go with Parakeet Party. So I'm going to use 3 of those. Let's put one of the large ones. So if you don't have any of these in your stash, then you could use rhinestones. You could use any number of little embellishment just to kind of bling this up a little bit. And then I'll use this size. I think this was like a medium size over here. And let's put a small one on our tag. Like so. And then that bright green bling really kind of brings it together. All right, for the treats, then I have it's just a plastic or a cellophane bag. This one happens to have gussets in the side. This is not a Stampin' Up bag. I'm sure it's from Amazon. Sometimes when I bake cookies to give them as a gift, these are cookie bags. Put the cookie in there and then cinch it shut. But I have a bunch of these, and so this is what I'm using for the inside of the box. So at this point, you can put your treats in here, either a full-size treat like this, that totally works, or probably 3 fun size, the little Halloween trades, you know, perhaps a Snickers, a Reese's Peanut Butter Cup, and a Kit Kat or something would fit in here. And then you're just going to gather the top. Now what I did to tie mine is I used some Parakeet Party, this little woven ribbon that is super shiny and beautiful. This is still available in the current catalog, and that's what I used to tie my bag, like you can see. And then this tucks right into your little box. Super cute and very easy to make. You could crank a bunch of these out in not too much time at all. As I mentioned, this is one of the projects that we did make at Stamp Club. The other 2 projects have their own tutorials, so be sure and look for those here on YouTube. And as I mentioned, if you'd like to know the dimensions of all the different pieces that I used, just hop over to my website, stampwithjuliebaum.com, and you'll find a photo of this project along with the dimensions. Thanks so much for watching. Until next time, happy stamping.